Anjo had found herself sitting by the edge of the roof where she could sit alone and think. Cheong-san had been adamant that they all stick together, but everyone had simply stated they were on the roof and none of the zombies could get up to them. He had reluctantly let it go, as they were all tired, as sleep still didn't come easy because of their current situation, even if they were somewhere relatively safe. She looked at Cheong-san and Na-Yeon, who were cuddled up on the other side of the roof. Na-Yeon was sleeping with her head resting on Cheong-san's shoulder as she sat in his lap, and she could see his head dip, constantly fighting to stay awake. They looked good together, which was odd because a few days ago she would have never remotely matched them together, Hyo-ryung maybe, but not Na-Yeon. She glanced over at Namra and Soo-hyuk. They had their hands held together as they stared out into nothingness. Anjo couldn't stand to look at them too long. It hurt, so she turned her sights on the rest of the group. Junyoung and Woojin were asleep using Dae-soo as a pillow. The trio was always amusing, to say the least. Hyo-ryung and Ji-min were huddled up not too far from the trio of boys and the fire as they slept. She heard something, a subtle yet definite sound, and then moments later felt a presence beside her that made her heart freeze. The zombies couldn't climb up here, right? There was no way they could, she asked herself as she slowly turned to face the figure. She let out an ear-piercing scream as she scrambled away, awakening everyone. Because right beside her, after having climbed up to the roof, was none other than Guinam. His face had bruises and tears from their previous encounter, but seemed fine, as if he healed. But the smile that was on his face as he saw the rest of the group sent shivers up all their spines. Everyone woke up at her screams, scrambling to get their weapons as they shook off their sleep. Namra and Soo-hyuk were already at her side, ready to attack him with their weapons drawn, although Namra was having a hard time summoning that power as before. Cheong-san and the other boys joined them in front, as Ji-min, Na-Yeon, and Hyo-ryung stayed at the back of the group, but with their weapons still drawn. "You stupid idiots making me climb up this building like you can get away from me, especially you Cheong-san. I'm not letting you die until I take your eye like you took mine." The group stood shaken but ready as Guinam continued on his maniacal monologue about how he was going to enjoy eating all of them. But then his gaze settled on Namra as he let out a small smile. "You're like me. Join me and we could rule all of this." But Namra just scoffed at him, which just made him scowl. "Stupid bitch. Even right now, you still think that you're better than me." "How is that hunger?" he asked with a smile on his face, because now that he had some time to think about it, he was feeling very hungry, wanting to eat someone, but he hadn't been able to find anyone to eat in the building, only zombies. He was feeling very hungry, and since she was like him, he bet that she was feeling the same. Feeling like eating your little friends yet. He saw the momentary lapse in her expression that brought a smile to his face. "Shut up!" shouted Soo-hyuk. "I'm going to enjoy this," Guinam said before he charged at the group, but he didn't catch them off guard as they responded to his attack in kind. The group began engaging in a melee with Guinam as they attacked him with their weapons, as Guinam attacked with whatever he could get, but mostly with his fist. They kept attacking him, noticing Guinam was moving in inhuman ways, and they could only guess that he had gone to learn about his powers after he saw Namra. They kept on knocking him back, but he responded with more against them, as he didn't even seem fazed by the damage he was also taking. Namra saw Guinam trying to bite Dae-soo, who was pushing him back, and rushed forward, blocking his bite with her own forearm. He bit into her, and she grunted as she fought the urge to scream out and kicked him back. He stared her down with a growl, mouth covered in her blood as the two charged at each other again. This battle was different. Namra could feel she was on the edge of getting her powers back, but that wasn't enough, and Guinam threw her around like a rag doll, beating her with attacks that would have broken any normal human. He threw her to the side, sending her crashing into the low-hanging roof wall as he stood up to face Cheong-san. He charged at him, and surprisingly, Cheong-san didn't seem fazed as he charged back. They started fighting with each other, with Guinam mostly toying with him because he was going to take his time. But as he was distracted, he felt a pole stab through him and was enraged. He made to bite Cheong-san, but he quickly put up his makeshift forearm guards that warded off the bite, much to Guinam's annoyance. Namra lay on the ground recovering. She had never been hit like that in her life. She had never been hit or fought at all. It felt as if she had been slammed by a truck all over. But as she lay on the ground watching as her friends kept on fighting Guinam even if they were outmatched, she felt that push in her again. She staggered up to her feet shakily. She could still feel the beating she had taken, but could also feel some of it. Healing? Her sights locked onto Guinam as her eyes shifted before she charged with a roar. Guinam turned to see her charging him as the two quickly met in a test of strength, pushing against each other. But this time they were closer to being equal. Namra's face was hard with focus as she did her best to push Guinam back, and he seemed only further amused by her power, but was struggling against her as well. "Look at this! Look at what you can do! Pretty impressive, right? There's still a choice to join me, princess. Maybe I won't punish you too harshly." That made Namra spit in his face, further enraging him. Guinam snarled as he started pushing against her angrily, and she knew he would win, but she had something he didn't: people on her side. Soo-hyuk bashed the side of Guinam's head with his bat, eliciting a sickening crunch as his strength faltered, giving Namra the upper hand. Cheong-san joined in with the rest of the group as they started attacking him from all sides, with even Na-Yeon, Ji-min, and Hyo-ryung joining in on the assault. Namra, who had been pushing against Guinam, was now anchoring herself so that he couldn't escape as he tried desperately to defend himself from the onslaught of attacks. She saw her opening and could already feel he was significantly weakened and went to kick in the side of his knee, causing it to buckle. Her strength had broken the leg, but she wasn't going to stop there as she twisted in his arms, jerking them with all her power, breaking them. Guinam let out a scream, headbutting her with a sickening crack and causing her to stumble back, dazed. He shakily got back to his one still working leg, but faltered as Soo-hyuk attacked his other knee, however failing to shatter it because he lacked the super strength. Guinam charged at him, wanting to bite him as they hit the edge of the roof. Soo-hyuk was pushing against Guinam's shoulders, trying his best to keep him away, and before any of them knew what was happening, Guinam was sent hurtling over the edge. He was screaming all the way down as Soo-hyuk stood there on the edge, frozen, before Guinam's screams abruptly stopped. Soo-hyuk sat up to see Namra standing in front of him, battered and bruised, but with a small smile on her face. They were both breathing heavily, tired as everyone probably felt and looked, but he rushed to her, hugging her tightly. She more than surprised him when she hugged him back immediately. Na-Yeon went to Cheong-san, who had also taken a beating in the melee, being Guinam's main target, and saw that he was fine. As fine as he could be since he was already littered with bruises, and it was hard to tell which were new and old. She embraced him nonetheless because that had been terrifying. After a few moments of collecting themselves, everyone in the group made their way over to the edge of the roof, looking down into the darkness below, the ground so darkened that they couldn't see Guinam's form anywhere. But they hoped that this time he was gone for good.